und ich heiße herzlich willkommen. Welcome on stage, Daniela Ruah and Eric Christian Olsen. Really? What's going on here? I spent too much time with you. Thanks for having us,
good
everybody.
theme music back there. Well done. You guys are here for the Aero panel? Yes. Thank you guys for having us. This is my first time in Germany. You?
This is my second time in Germany. I've been to Berlin before, which is a beautiful city. It was many years ago. Are you from Berlin? Nice. I love it. My first time in Hannover, so.
So how do we just answer questions? Are we talking?
Yeah. So as you told us, you've been to Germany like twice. Have you traveled to other places in Europe yet?
Other places in Europe?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're from Europe.
Yeah, I'm from Portugal originally. Yeah. So I grew up in Portugal. Is anybody Portuguese in here? Yeah, boa, gosto, tu good. Well, that sounds
Is anybody from Norway? Is anybody from Germany? Hey! You're all my adopted brothers and sisters. Because nobody's from Norway.
Any Scandinavians here? Wow.
There's no Scandinavians.
Scandinavian.
They don't leave the countries. Every year you come back for holiday.
Yeah, I come back twice a year. I go to Portugal 2 times a year. I go when we're on hiatus for about a month, and then in Christmas. And you said, have we ever been to other places in Europe? I mean, yeah. Portugal, Spain, France, Germany. I mean, I could list a bunch of them. I think, when you live here.
No, you should do that. You should list countries.
We are in the, United States of Europe.
Every summer, we've had a tradition for the past about 10 years to come to Europe. So the same thing. We always pick a country and travel with my wife, and then now our 2 kids, and he's got like more frequent flyer miles at the age of 2.5 than I had up until I was 25.
When did you get your first passport?
My first passport I didn't get until I was in college. I did a business course in Helsinki, and he had his passport. My son's passport, he was like 2 months old, and I had the fattest baby on the planet. And we had to prop him up, because of course he's 2, so we just sat there like this.
They look like this. They're like, they hold them up.
And the picture, he looks at the picture, he's like, who's that? I was like, that's you. And he's like, no, Dad, that's not me.
Well, and babies only have to change their passports like when they turn 5. That's when you have to change it. So obviously when they're 2 or 3 months old and you take their passport picture, and then, and then now that they're 3.5, and almost 4, it just makes no sense. We could be, trafficking some random baby, and nobody would know the difference.
He looks at the picture and he laughs and he goes, that's a silly guy. That's a silly guy. We love Europe.
Okay.
Wow, can we get that light any brighter? Is that a spotlight on me? He just
really
made it brighter. Well, all right, touche, sir, touche. Well played. Oh, no, now it's dark. It's mood lighting. Let's do this, Germany.
So okay, so very white. Let's switch to Navy CIS. Can you tell us something about your show? Do you remember still your first day on the set? Can you tell us something about this?
What's up, Batman? I see you, Batman.
First day. Oh, there's a belly.
Batman's showing his belly.
All kids do that. All kids just lift their shirts up.
Batman's here. He doesn't need a seat. He's Batman. My first day on... I remember my first day.
Do you?
Yeah, kind of. I had a bunch of exposition. An exposition on a show like ours, we have a lot of. It's essentially like, Randy came over here with Barry, and Barry did this, and he's carrying 2 kilos of something, and it's all information, so it's just you have to memorize it. And I remember having like a chunk of dialogue that was all that stuff, and I was like, I hate this. I'm so bad at exposition.
And then he met me, and he was like, I like it. You know our story.
Yeah, that's exactly where the story was going. But I was just like struggling through it, because if you guys watch the show, you can tell that, that's not my forte. My forte is just kind of making stuff up as we go, and they had all this exposition, and I remember Chris O'Donnell just being like, this is terrible. Why are we having him say all this stuff? He's like, I don't know what's going on in this scene. And Chris O'Donnell totally stuck up for me, like, this needs to change because it was all nonsense.
And so now Barrett and Renee, who play Eric and Nell, have all the information.
Yeah, if you watch the show.
Oh, we get to go run around like idiots.
Yeah, they have all the exposition and we just kind of dance around like monkeys. And that was my first day, and it was a great experience. And you know, coming onto a show at the end of season 1 was really interesting because they'd already kind of formalized the relationships. And you had Ella Cool J, Chris O'Donnell. These are the guys that I kind of grew up watching, and Danny was fantastic, and they were really warm and inviting. And it was I knew that was a place that I could spend some years. Yeah, you hear me. Batman knows what's up.
And my first day, I don't remember exactly what happened on the first day because technically my first day as Kenzie was on the original NCIS where we aired as a team for the first time, and then our show started after that. So yeah, I think my first day was maybe with Mark Harmon. I remember here's a story from one of my first days. So I was very, very nervous, and they explained to me that Kenzie was like a, badass girl and all this stuff, and to me badass meant that I had to have like a really straight back and really serious all the time, which is so far from, where I am now, just a goofball. But I remember perfectly, I had gum in my mouth for one of the scenes. I was like, oh, this is so unprofessional. I really need to get rid of my gum. And right before they called action, I was like, I'm so sorry, I have gum in my mouth. I need to throw out my gum. And I see a hand coming from behind me like this. And I look down, I literally ran up. And I look back, and it's Mark Harmon. Literally, I was like, his hand was going, I was like, oh, hey. Sir, thank you, sir.
Have you guys heard?
I know he's the funnest guy on the planet.
Have you heard her audition story for the show?
Oh my god.
Please tell them.
All right, so here's let me lay out the scene for you.
You weren't even there.
I know the story. So when you audition for shows, you usually do so in like a small office building. Like it's you and this other person reading opposite you who's not looking and not an actor or actress, and they're like reading the sides, and you perform your character, right? And you're in this usually a small little room with no backdrop, and they're like, have a camera, because thousands of people are auditioning for these roles. And then they're like, all right, and we're rolling, and action. And the person's like, the bomb is coming towards you, you need to move quickly and go. And then you act. So, Danny, on her audition in New York City, yeah? She's in New York City, she's fresh off the boat from London, yeah?
No, Portugal, technically.
Okay, so Portugal and London.
And they're all the same.
And it's so hard to do like a regular scene. A regular scene would just be like you and I having a conversation. But it's really difficult to do an action scene because there's nothing really happening. You don't have a gun.
There's too much happening.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing. You don't have a gun. You don't have explosions to play off of. You have to act like all these things are happening. And I'll tell you a story about my audition for Transformers after this. But Danny,
this is him telling you that he was in Transformers.
I'll be your casting agent, right?
Oh dear.
So all right, Daniela Ruah, you're going to be reading for the role of Kenzie Bly.
So I just want to say that the room was probably this, maybe to here, this wall, and even this stage, right? So I'm literally in a cubicle.
So it's just her in a cubicle with a guy with a camera. It already sounds bad. All right, Daniela Ruah and Kenzie Bly, and action, here we go. We gotta get the...
So I need to premise one thing.
Yeah.
So they said I had to have a wrist mic, I let 90s, probably.
Talking into your wrist.
And then talking into my wrist, and I was supposed to be holding a gun. I'd never even seen a gun live in my entire life, so I had no idea what to do. And so the words were, if anybody saw the episodes in NCIS, it's like, Blackbird is under fire, we're under fire. And LL Cool just jumping over cars and stuff. Anyway, so in this audition...
So, Blackbird, what's going on? Blackbird, what's going on?
Oh, yeah. Was that okay?
That was her audition, folks. But also, you couldn't hear, but she's like holding a gun, just going back and forth in this tiny little room, going, Blackbird's under fire! Blackbird's under fire! Blackbird's under fire! Are we good? Do we get that? Did I get the role?
Do you guys need something different? I can... No?
And then they sent that really good video to Shane Brennan and CBS, and Shane was like, squinting because it was such bad quality, right?
The audition or the video? Because it was both.
The quality of the video was so bad that he was squinting. He's like, I can't really tell what she's doing. I can't tell if she's good or bad, but she looks the part, so let's bring her on out to us.
And by the way, that's exactly the conversation that happened, basically. The audition really didn't go well, because after that glorious moment of choreography, I had this big script, this big chunk of speech to say, and it was really big, and there was lots of technical terms and everything, and I'm supposed to be this tough girl speaking to a bunch of other cops and telling them what the case is. And so he's so excited, I love this Batman. And I started, and I get almost to the end, and I had just started auditioning in my entire career. I hadn't done that, I was kind of fresh out of college. And so I screwed up towards the end, and instead of just continuing and just finishing it, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I screwed up, I really need to get these lines right, and then I started from the beginning, and the more nervous I got, the earlier in the script I was screwing up, basically. And so it went really, really wrong. So when I got hired for the role, I asked Shane Brennan, I said, why? This was terrible. And he's like, yes, it was terrible. It was, and I was like, meh. But as Eric said, it was such a small screen I couldn't see, and I just wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. So they called me over to LA for a second audition where I was a little more confident about what I was doing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's Hollywood at its best right there.
So you guys have any more questions?
How much time do we have?
An hour. Yeah, till
we're
straight.
plenty of time.
Okay.
So we have plenty of time for questions.
Don't have any more questions. We'll just continue to talk.
Okay.
What?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I'm auditioning for Transformers, and it's the same thing. This is a casting director that I love, and she cast me in The Thing, and she cast Pearl Harbor, which I was in. She's an amazing casting director. And the audition was in Transformers. I think it was the third movie. It was it was Shia and one other person. And I didn't know if it was going to fit, because I think I was doing this at the same time. And it was a scene where the Transformers were coming and blowing up stuff, and I had to run and yell and stuff like that. And it was the same thing, I'm in a room, and it's me, so I always play against it anyway, and I was like, yo, the robots are here! They're here, the robots, everybody get down! Just kind of scrambling around the room like an idiot.
Which is, by the way, how all the actors have to play it in Transformers, because obviously
you don't see anything.
They don't see anything.
Up.
The director is just like, and now a bomb goes off behind you, and you're like, ah!
And Michael Bay because Michael Bay did Pearl Harbor too, and he was like, you gotta tell Olsen that these robots are scary. He's supposed to be very scared of the Transformers. Tell him to do it again, and this time he's scared of them. And I was like, okay, well, what is that? What just walked into the room? Do you want to talk about that? All right, yeah, just sit there. That's fine. Let's keep you in the back.
Just shiny eyes just aiming at us.
Yeah, they just turned off it. I'm sure his name is Frank. Frank. Okay, that's cool. I got my eye on you.
The eyes just came on again.
Yeah, so it's being an actor and auditioning, that whole process is such a ridiculous, impossible situation, because you are always in small rooms trying to make believe. And when you have to add action sequences to that, it just becomes it's impossible.
That's why they call it acting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Here's one from here. You both have to do many physical scenes, especially I think of the fighting scenes of Kenzie. How do you both prepare for these scenes?
This is a great question, because we have the exact opposite answer.
He does nothing. How do you prepare for these scenes? Well, depending on the type of fight that we have to do, if it's a longer choreography, then we will have somebody come in who actually choreographs it with us, and we have some hours before the shoot to actually rehearse it and go over it. Personally, I like, sometimes we have stunt doubles for that. And personally, I like to fight with the other actor's stunt double, because I feel better about, throwing punches and kicks, and I'm not so concerned about hurting them, because, they're really, really tough. But yeah, so the preparation, and, a lot of exercise every Sunday. We do exercises at my house.
Yeah,
we do Sunday Fun Day.
Yeah.
If anybody follows us on Instagram, you'll know about Sunday Fun Day.
So they give Danny these big fight scenes with knives and stuff. And a lot of times, the first script will be like, and Deeks gets in a knife fight. I'm like, yeah, just give that to Danny. Just give the knife fight to Danny. And Danny will go with the choreographer and work for like 2 days perfecting this knife fight scene. And then there's scenes when they're like, Deeks gets in a fight, and I was like, I'll just learn it right before we start rolling, so just teach it to me real fast.
He does.
And I remember
I'll
the
show
scene,
up half an hour early, I'm like, don't do it, man. Like, seriously.
My first episode ever, I had a big MMA fight with LL Cool J. It was like a 4.5-minute choreographed fight with LL Cool J. So I've never met him before. And the day that I was supposed to do all my training, which was like 6 hours of learning all the choreography, I was like coming back from the thing because I was shooting at the same time and I missed it. So I had to learn it the morning of.
And you were sick that day.
And I was sick that day. Okay, well, that's because I just shot the thing in Toronto. So I show up and it's this 4.5-minute choreographed fight scene with LL Cool J. And I mean, that guy's, he's unbelievable. And he's so good with that choreography and those fight scenes.
And he loves boxing.
He loves boxing.
He practices it.
But we got through it. They never used my stunt double for that scene. And when I came home that night, listen, LL's the strongest person on the planet. Like, I know a lot of professional football players that are much smaller than LL Cool J. But he's also perfectly in control. So he'll throw a punch at full speed, but by the time it gets to you, he stops. He pulls the punch. So it never really lands, but they still land. And I came home that night, like, feeling amazing, and I stripped my shirt off to get in the shower, and my wife just goes, you look like a zebra! And my whole body was like black and blue spots of just like where he would land a punch, would pull it, but still he's so powerful that it just looked like all these like spots.
I feel like it's not where he punched you, it's where you fell.
That's possible.
On the ground.
It's totally possible, right? And that's true too, because we were like flopping around and doing jujitsu and everything else.
I know.
But yeah, Danny prepares a lot, and I kind of just wing it when I get there.
So, are there any more questions?
Yeah, I got one here.
Don't be shy, because we have a whole hour.
I'm not the best English speaker, but what did you think when you see you first time on the TV?
On the show or in general? In general, okay.
The first time ever, or the first time
First time ever.
Ever.
That's a good question. You want to know? Here we go.
I was like, ugh, I sound like a mouse. I was like, really, my voice, I feel like my voice was really high-pitched. The first time I saw myself on TV, I was 16. So I was, much younger. And I just remember I need to lower my voice a little bit because I sound like a mouse, literally. And then, looking at yourself on TV or in movies is not the same as looking at yourself in the mirror. You're just like, my eyes are not really straight, and my chin is weird. And you notice all these weird details, you're like, oh my gosh, I've been walking around my whole life, and that's how people see me. Because now I'm seeing what other people see. I never make him laugh. I'm so happy I'm funny to you. Because I was like, really? That's your improv? And so it was really, really weird. And then eventually you get used to it and you start, working with whatever you have. And that's it.
The first time I saw myself on TV, I was like, you look pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, you look pretty good, Olsen.
He thinks you're super funny.
No, how old are you? Where are you? How old are you? Yeah, you. How old? Ik kan Svansman. Svansman.
Not at all.
I'm just making up numbers. You're 14. All right, so here's a good lesson. Because this is a lesson that I had to learn. When I first saw myself on television, I was a freshman in college. And so I'm like 19 years old. And it was a commercial. And I remember doing this commercial and being like, that's cool, but as soon as I get a big national commercial, that will be it. Then I'll be really happy with that. And then I got a national commercial, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. But as soon as I get like my first guest spot on a TV show, that would be awesome. And then I got a guest spot on a TV show, and I said, well, as soon as I get like a movie that I can go to like Blockbuster, which doesn't exist anymore, or like to see my name on a box for a DVD, that would be amazing. And then that happened. And then I was like, well, as soon as I see myself on a big screen, then that's gonna be it. And I remember calling my dad after seeing myself in all these things and kept talking about what I call delayed gratification, which is that always just looking for the next thing to be like, well, that's it. And he said, the thing that you're missing, Eric, is that you're doing it. Like, this is the process, this is the journey. And you have to take stock in that and be happy in these moments because this is our lives, right? So the first time I saw myself on TV, I just kept thinking, I gotta do the next thing, I gotta do the next thing, I gotta do the next thing. And it took me a long time to realize that this is it. Like, these are the moments, like, this is life. And to embrace that for what it is.
I think it's both of the things that you're saying. Like, you have to embrace the journey, but you dreaming of the next step is what got you to the next step.
Yes,
you know
but you also have to,
but enjoy what you have now, of course, yeah.
So really wishing I had that at the beginning of the journey of just the appreciation for how, and I think that's the beautiful thing about this show, is that we all have an appreciation for you guys, because without you guys we wouldn't have a TV show. And B, how lucky we are to be doing what we're doing. And I think that's a lot of times, I mean, you guys have met a lot of actors, it's hard for people to kind of process that we're really lucky and grateful to do what we do. Does that make sense?
You look so lost right now.